What is going on, Benchmark family? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very special guest and a very special episode. It's the first time we do have a guest on our channel. He was a three-time Parade All-American selection in 1994 to 96. He was a McDonald's All-American in 1996. Mr. Illinois basketball in the same year. Finished his high school career with the third most points in Chicago Public League history with 2,619. He's none other than Chicago basketball legend, the man, the myth, Ronnie Fields. How you doing tonight, Ronnie?
Hey guys, how y'all doing? Thanks for inviting me on.
So we'll get right into it. So you obviously grew up 20 minutes from the United Center in the west side of Chicago. Tell us how that was growing up in Chicago and a little bit about your family upbringing.
Growing up in Chicago, especially around that time between the 80s and the 90s where basketball was at its highest peak, especially here, having Michael Jordan. And then that's what a lot of the kids used to do, to play on the playground a lot. That's what we learned how to play a lot here in Chicago, is on the playgrounds. And that's what the guys wanted to do. If they didn't play baseball or basketball, it was other bad things to get involved in. So for me, I chose to, play basketball and baseball in the area I grew up in. It was tough. So, you either do one or the other at the time. But you learn a lot. It teach you toughness. It teach you, adversity. And then, like I said, you just got to stay focused. Some guys can get caught up in the streets. Some guys able to, make it through those opportunities and take advantage. I was one of them.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the influence that MJ would have had in that part of the world, and especially at the peak that he was at, it was a time where a lot of the kids would have been wanting to be the next Michael Jordan. So I can totally understand that. There's a fact that we found about you as an eighth grader. It says you worked at the Taste of Chicago Food Festival. Can you confirm, is that correct or not when you were growing up?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did. So the crazy part is he's like a father figure. His name was Rick Malnati, and he's on Lou Malnati's pizza. It's a very big piece of chain here in Chicago. But at the time, he used to have city kids go play against suburban kids. And one of those guys at the time was out there that was playing with us, is the general manager for the Lakers.
Oh, really?
So we all played some city suburban basketball. And then, for me, like I said, I was fortunate to meet a lot of people when I was young, a lot of good people that still in my life today that help guide me. But like I said, when playing here in Chicago, in that era, when I was that young, just like I said, I had a lot of great players that I looked up to. And with the NBA going the way it did with Magic and Bird and then Michael taking it to the next level, it kind of captivated not only here in America, but all over. And that was the change in the basketball from that point on. So you started to see it grow rapidly. Now here, AAU travel basketball is one of the biggest things in the country. And now that you're having it with players abroad as well. So, from that time when I was young, I never thought it would continue to grow to this magnitude.
Obviously with the game growing because of MJ himself and his airness in the city of Chicago, obviously, things were going off there. But where did your love, I guess, first come for the game of basketball? Was it through Michael? Was it through a friend, through family, or was it just everybody in the area was kind of, obviously you mentioned kids, it was either basketball or baseball, or where was your love for the game first born?
It was crazy because I used to play with my cousin a lot, but I used to watch some stuff on, watch a lot of dumb things on TV. But then I was young on the playgrounds. We had the adults to put in classics like basketball tournaments. So when I was watching those guys, I was like, damn, wanted to do some of those things. So every morning I go to school, try to get there early so we can get on the playground and play. And then I start really enjoying it and start doing things that most kids can do. And that's when I really, really start like wanted to play it even more.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, from what age did you have that realization that it was going to play a massive part in your life and that you realized you could make a career out of the game?
Oh, wow. I would probably say my 6th grade year going into my 7th grade year.
Is that when you first dunked?
6th grade?
My 7th grade year was my first dunk.
Damn.
I was playing on the playground. Dunk.
Yeah, that was my 7th grade year when I first dunked. My 8th grade year when I first ever took off on the free throw line in a championship game.
Jeez.
God. So I guess, yeah, from that question on, because I was gonna ask this a little bit later on, but that whole there's that urban legend. It's not really an urban legend, but there's a lot of obviously myth behind it. It's like you had a 50-inch vertical jump. Can you confirm that that's correct? Well, I believe it is because I've seen the highlights. But
it was 50. Like, see, the thing about I had a lot of great jumpers, a lot of friends. Vince Carter, Melvin Levitt, Shea Cotton. I've seen a lot of greats. But the one comparison, when you comparing a person to a guy like Michael Jordan, it's the balance in the air to be able to go where you want and finish without being out of control on either side of the basket. And that's one of probably the closest things that I had to Michael, to be able to finish, hold, pause in the air, come on one side of the basket, dunk the ball, or flip it behind you, and still land on balance and keep running down the court. And people don't understand, Mike was great in his own way because of his competitive nature, but his balance to be able to finish in air, getting bumped, hit, and to be able to do some of those things myself when I got to the 8th and 9th grade, that's where the comparison came in, because a lot of stuff from that point I started patting out to him.
So he was your favorite player growing up, being from Chicago?
Yeah, you couldn't. I mean, some of the stuff, and I like the Dr. J, Magic Johnson, Dominique Wilkins, but my game came closer to Michael's than those guys.
Oh, that's crazy. Hang time's a crazy thing. When I watch it today, it's like only a few players, obviously LeBron, even like Dennis Smith, but I don't know, it's you're right. Like there's a certain thing about being able to float in the air and then get the contact and still finish,
Yeah, guys don't realize how hard that is and maintain your control. There's not a lot of guys even doing it today.
No, I was going to say, I feel like the athleticism back then, I don't know, everyone says players are more athletic nowadays, but I feel like when I'm watching highlights from the 80s, the 90s, there was something about these guys, just the way
it's like smooth.
They were just way more smoother. I feel like half the dunks that a lot of these guys, they're pulling off some crazy stuff in in game and, East Bays and whatnot. But I don't know, every time I looked at it, like these guys were wearing bulky shoes as well that weighed, like a brick, and they were still managing to get up. Now these guys have the blessings that have all this technology at hand, all this sports science, and yet I still feel like the guys back in the day were way more athletic.
This is what people got to stand between the both, because I watch and study a lot of this. Between playing back then, physical contact from the top of the key and finishing in the paint, guys that's muscular, 6'10", 7 feet, known shot blockers. See, that's when you know you got power. Today's game, you go in there and touch a person on the shoulder by mistake, it's a technical or flagrant foul.
Yeah.
So when guys, between being athletic when you got to go through a guy and you get hit back then like we did, these guys now, I mean, you can't even touch nobody, and you still not getting that many dunks, and it's not no legitimate centers that block shots like that anymore. Dwight Howard probably was the last dominant defensive had.
Mm.
Take advantage of him. And
Yeah.
they're not defenders. Joe, you go down the lane where you like, oh, I'm worried about him. It's just different.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So we found a little source. You signed your first autograph after a Mason Junior High basketball game. Is this true?
Yeah, that was probably after the game when I dunked.
From the free throw
I'll
line?
never forget when I first dunked in the game, they called a technical foul on me. I didn't know what the hell it was for. And they told me I shouldn't be dunking. I was like, what?
That's brutal.
Yeah, I was like, what you mean?
I'm blessed with these genetics.
Yeah. And
I know,
going back,
like, man, they do it on what I see the referee is they do it on TV.
Oh man. So were you always regarded as a top prospect coming into your freshman year of high school? Like obviously with all the fanfare you had in middle school and everything like that. Was that something that, people like, well, we know who this guy is now, we know what he's made of, and he's the next big thing?
You know, it's so crazy. Like, once I realized, like, see, at the time when all the hoopla and everything was going on, I didn't really embrace a lot of that until I got to my junior year to realize the impact that I had. And I realized that when I went into ninth grade, I was the number one ninth grade in the country. But I was still getting attention, but look at it like that because I just enjoyed playing all the time. So when it got really, really noticeable, when people started putting a dynamic duo together, that's when me and Kevin teamed up. But I already had made a name
before Kevin.
But it was just weird. It was just weird how it all came together.
Yeah, and like obviously Chicago, they have a lot of prevalent high school basketball teams. Whitney Young, Simeon. Why choose Farragut Academy over these programs, and were they pursuing you at the time?
Well, the thing about the Farragut situation was, what helped me probably when I didn't even know, like when I was playing on the playground with older guys, going to my 7th grade year, my 8th grade year, the coach would come pick me up and have me to come up to the school. And like I said, I didn't even looking at it like that. I was just wanting to play. So I started playing with seniors against seniors, and I was just dominating these guys. So I got comfortable with the coach. It was like 15 minutes from where I live. And then I think that was the best decision I made because he was like, for me, when I was a freshman, I thought I was going to come in, play on the sophomore team. And he was like, no, you're going to start on varsity as a freshman. So I averaged like 16 points a game as a freshman.
Jesus. As a freshman.
Coming in, making an impact
Going
right
up
away.
against seniors? Oh, yeah.
Varsity. So that's freshman all the way up to senior.
That's crazy.
Did you start?
Yeah, I started all 4 years.
Oh, my God.
So,
and I would have had the Illinois record. I would have probably had the all-time Illinois record if I wouldn't have had my accident. I think right about the playoff start, I was averaging close to 39 a game.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's without getting a lot of free throws. And people don't realize we only play 8-minute quarters.
That's nothing. 8 minutes.
And then at the time when I played, people in Chicago treated it like Jordan. So I was getting double team, triple team, boxing one, foul, knocked out the air. And I didn't even get a chance to shoot a lot of free throws.
Nowadays, guys are getting tapped on the shoulder and they're getting 12 to 15 free throws a night.
People, I got none. A lot of guys work on their skills, but the difference between working on their skills and playing back then, I say, guys, people don't realize Michael still got the only single season we had 3,000 points. Think about that. And that's when he was getting his butt kicked.
Yeah.
The guys today, you have my 9 guys averaging 30-something points. Of course, ain't nobody can touch you. And they still ain't got the 3,000 points.
That just really puts it into perspective.
Things like load management also, and just like players resting, that would have to be a huge part of it. Like Jordan probably wouldn't have taken a night off.
First of all, Jordan played 15 seasons?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in 15 seasons. How many games of 82 games you think Michael played?
82 in all of them.
Or except for the second.
Actually, no,
broke his foot.
Yeah.
He played 8 out of the 15. You know how many LeBron has? In 20 seasons, he had 1.
Damn.
Really puts it into perspective.
It does.
You know, that's why I tell people what's more impressive, because I watch all these comparisons and the GOAT and all that. People got to understand this. The reason you will look at LeBron in terms of, I'm not going to call him the GOAT, but one of the greatest players ever, is because he exceeded expectation as a high school player. And what he's done to be his longevity and his size and speed to be able to accomplish what he's done over the course of his career. But then when you break down the brass taxes, when you compare guys to the GOAT, you ain't going to compare nobody in terms of longevity like that, because if you do, then you have to have more championships. You have to have more scoring titles. You got to have more all defensive appearances. He don't have none of those.
Yeah.
So he is, to me, like, as you break down, and it's just basketball, you know how the media is. When you're done and they break you all the way down and you retire, you'll find yourself the top 5. You know, because I tell people, you got to be dominant. That means in your area, in this era, you can name a lot of dominant guys. You can say Steph Curry. He got 4. And the crazy about it, guys like Giannis will probably end up winning a couple more. Jokic got 1. He got 2 MVPs. So, I mean, basketball today, for me, I would like a little bit more defense to be played, and the referees to, start looking at this game, because they want scoring. But I even heard commissioner say he want the scoring to go down some. He don't want it to just free for all. So sometimes it's hard to watch the NBA.
It is, especially when it's like, because I feel like a lot of players nowadays put up a bit of like empty stats. Like there's a lot of really bad teams out there, but then the guys averaging like 30 to 35, and everyone's not really getting their piece. It's like how can you even measure up a comparison between a guy like Jalen Green or Brad Bill to these to a guy like Drew Holiday? Like the level in between these players, it's to me it's not much, but people seem to pay way more attention to who's putting up more PBG, and it's tough. Like
to me, you said a guy Drew Holiday. To me, after Ben Simmons, when he, I don't know what happened to him, but to me, it was the best 2-point defensive point guards, the best 3-point defensive point guards. It's been Drew Holiday, Smart, and Ben Simmons. And those guys, you give me Drew Holiday any day. I watch a guy even watching Jimmy Butler. For what he's doing, just say Jimmy Butler would have won the title this year, right? Tell me what that say for a Dwayne Wade or LeBron James when they was in Miami. What be more impressive?
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
You're playing with 7 undrafted players
Yeah. G League
and
is
an undersized center.
yeah.
So when people got to stop comparing, and I even as I tell people, it's like, and I know they're just being facts. Even with a lot of players, when people like try to put LeBron past Kobe, no, it's just if you look at the first 6, 7 years of the Eastern Conference, look at the bottom 4 teams and tell me who's the toughest player that wasn't a top tier scorer that you had to go through. Gilbert Arenas, Dwight Howard.
Mm,
It wasn't nobody there.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
no.
like, I think the NBA is like, now that it's changed, but now with the way the new rules finna come around, they finna stop with people just teaming up with each other.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
that's
one of
why
those
I'm
things.
so proud of like a team like Denver,
Yeah.
who had their players already in place and they just add some good role players.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. Just a quick one, because you obviously mentioned that you got plucked out of the playground. Obviously, at that time, they had the Hoop Dreams documentary being filmed, and St. Joe's obviously was, I guess, a highly publicized program. Did Gene Pingator and St. Joe's ever reach out to you, or did any of those scouts come down on the west side and try and pluck you out that way, or was that never on your mind?
The crazy part about that was my grammar school coach, that's who he tried to send me to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. He tried to send me to St. Joe's.
And was that never in your...
It wasn't really nowhere on my radar. Played against was way more tougher than playing in the Catholic League.
Sure.
Because I had to go through the Red West.
Tough league. Tough comp.
It was a night in and night out fight. Kevin. Kevin said, I ain't never seen nothing like that in my life. It was for me it was good. Like I'm happy I played in the Red West because that was one of the most toughest divisions to play in. And you could, I mean, every night it was a fight.
No free buckets.
Who are some of the best high school players you've matched up in that division?
I mean, we had Westinghouse, Marshall, Crane, Lincoln Park, Whitney Young.
That's some ballers right there. So after your freshman year, ESPN had you regarded as the best freshman in the entire country. How did your life change at that point in time?
See, this is the thing that's so crazy. That ain't when it changed because I didn't even know it until I went to Nike camp.
Oh, yeah.
In '93, yeah, that was the follow-up actually from that, when it was the best of the best game, correct?
Yes, it was the best. That was the one that was I was a little nervous about. Because
The competition
you
was
had a
crazy.
freshman class, sophomore class, junior class, right? They had all-star games for each grade level, right? So the big one was the senior. Of course, that was on TV. So when they started calling everybody out and then they called my class out, I'm like, damn, I was that bad out here. I thought I didn't play good. And then they called us juniors. I'm like, damn, I must didn't make the all-star at that young age.
So you ended up playing in the senior game. Is that right?
Yeah.
Damn.
Iverson. He was my teammate at camp anyway, though.
How did you feel like you matched up with AI? Were you like on par at the time, or did you feel like Allen
No,
Iverson was another
me
level?
and him was starting. No, Me and him was the starting backcourt guards together.
Yeah. So, but like matching up, like as a co-partner in crime, were you like?
The thing was, I don't know. I'm telling you a story. Listen, me and AI was similar, even though he was going to senior and I was going to my sophomore year. But we was telling each other we weren't gonna pass the ball to nobody but us. We was bad at Nike Capital. We was bad. We was like, man, you pass it to me. We can get a big man to pass only if they set a good screen.
You guys end up winning the tournament or the camp?
No, no, because our big man was mad at us. Kevin them team won it.
Oh, KG won.
KG them team was too big. They had everybody over there. They was like 11-1.
KG? Who was on their squad?
My coach from high school was coaching them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had athletes can run, block shots. You wasn't getting no layups.
Had to settle for pull-ups.
Blocking that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, AI, we was over there being assholes. We was over there.
How did that experience prepare you for the remaining years of high school in terms of obviously having those battles against such quality players and guys that were older than you? Did you think that at that point in time that nothing could stop you when you went back to Chicago and you basically said you were going to feast on everybody?
Oh, when I got back home, it was like I'm playing everywhere at the time, the pro-am. And like the thing, I think, it's like when you enjoy something. See, the thing probably was weird. When I was playing basketball, I didn't ever look at the all the upper top supported me from a financial standpoint, all those things. How I was looking at it when I was young. So for me, that's where I was just like, when I got back, I was on the street of averaging 30-some points a game. Every year, my points was 16 my freshman year, 21 my sophomore year, and when Kevin came, it was 25, and my senior year was like about 35, 36.
36. Jeez.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. I was getting that in 8-minute quarters.
Obviously, KG came to Chicago, but who contacted who? I guess first to team up. Was KG keen to team up with you, or how did that all come about?
The crazy part about it, I had no idea that his long, tall ass was coming to Chicago. See, what's so crazy when people think this is what ended up happening. So at Nike camp, he fell in love with my coach. Well, my coach ain't never talk about none of that. So this is the thing was so crazy. Going into, was in my sophomore year, top 40 shootout at Nike in Portland, Oregon. So at the time, you don't know when you get there who your roommate. These players come from all over. So I get there and I check in, and that's ended up being my roommate was Kevin. So what was so weird was he started asking me questions. Kevin don't never shut up. So I'm trying to sleep. He's like, man, Fields, what is it like in Chicago? So I'm half sleeping. I'm talking to him. So I don't remember half the stuff I said to him. But I know his ass was still up talking. So all of a sudden, we ain't talk about playing together, nothing at all. I had no idea. All along, my coach already was having conversations with him. Right? The summer rolls around. I'm in Chicago doing a rap video, doing dunks in there for a friend of ours and a couple Bulls players. And my coach pull up to the video shoot, and Kevin get out of the car. And I said, what are you doing here? And he was like, brother, I'm here to stay and play. I was like, man, stop playing. You just up here for the summer. No, he was up there. We told him to put on some gym shoes, come on, get in this video. And from there it was history.
And at that time, he wasn't committed to Farragut Academy yet. You guys were just doing the shoot.
Yeah, I didn't have no idea, to be honest. I swear I didn't know he was coming.
Best kept secret.
Yeah, I didn't know shit. I was like, what he doing here?
So is that your favorite KG story, or is there any other? Let us hear.
Kevin is shoot. Look, I tell you what the craziest story is like. When one of the, the news used to try to come up to the school, so we was in class together, and I'm right there next to him. And Kevin's, so tired because I kept him up the night before, hitting him with shoes and wouldn't let him sleep. So we get to school the next day. And we don't know when media gonna try to sneak in because we had that a lot in school. So I'm woke, Kevin's slobbing on his book, he sleep. So the teacher gonna say, Kevin, and he seen the news people looking in the room. So he gonna try to put him on. He gonna try to like embarrass him and stuff. So I said, Kevin, wake up, wake up. I said, cause so the teacher asked you to read. He's like, where we at? At the time, I forgot we was on the 2 pages because I wasn't paying attention. So I had Kevin read the wrong thing what was going on in class. He's like, man, what you doing? I said, your ass was asleep. He's like, why you having me read the wrong thing? We had some crazy moments. One night we get ready for a big game and we was just talking basketball. Well, he falling asleep this time. So I kept hitting him with shoes, and then I hit him with like 4 pair of shoes. He was so mad I had to go in the room and lock the door so he can get in. But when it came down to like preparing and for practice, that's one of the biggest things I think I love about him because he was always locked and loaded and ready to go. And we never was on the same team in practice.
So you guys went at each other?
Oh yeah. Coach, it wouldn't be it was you talking about trash talking. It was heated. It was very heated.
Yeah.
We got NBA scouts in our practice.
Is there any like specific KG line that he might have went too far, or because we know KG, like there's a lot of stories in the league where
trash talks a lot.
Yeah, a lot of great trash talk stories out there.
The level now, but this is the thing: if you pay attention to it, you're gonna get sucked into it. Yeah. Kevin say some of the most crazy shit you ever hear a human being say. So if you ain't that smart, you should to realize some of that shit don't make sense. Just ignore them. Don't. Timothy.
I recently saw that there was that clip of him when Farid grabbed the rebound and was like, "Give me that shit," and then Garnett blocks him, KG blocks him, and he goes, "Shit out of here!"
Yeah. He had said some of the craziest stuff to Nettie and said to players. But I think, being in Chicago when he came up there, he seen how it was, and he embraced that attitude. Mm-hmm. He embraced that attitude.
The city molded him a little bit, would you say, in terms of his attitude?
Yeah. The first thing we did, we took him to this place called Marcy Center. It's like playing in the dungeon. You cannot call fouls. If you call fouls, you're going to get your ass whooped. So you can't call them. And he didn't believe it. So you go to the basket, you better go with a purpose. If not, you're going to get knocked across this stage where you run right into that, knock you into it. So I told him, I said, don't call no fouls in here, whatever you do. He went to the basket, boom, get clotheslined in the neck, foul hard. I said, that's not a foul. He's like, what? I say, them not fouls up here. He's like, what kind of basketball is this? I say, It's how they play. And if you're going to make it up here, you better learn how to play just like that. He's like, this is crazy. I say, I know.
You can definitely see it translated to the way he played, and the I guess that that attitude that he had on the court, and like
Yeah. Because it's like, if you don't respond up here like that back then, you're going to hear about it. And that's the thing.
So KG ends up getting drafted 5th overall, and in the process, he becomes the first high school player to be selected since 1975. Did seeing that happen motivate you in any way to have the best possible senior season? And I guess, were you thinking of going down the same route, or were you always looking at the college route when it came to the next stage of your career?
For me, it was a little like, it was weird. It was like, we didn't know all of this going on. But at the time, having the connections with a lot of former NBA players here, because Kevin had to go to Michigan. So we didn't know for sure. But he was a very rare breed at the time. And when he went, it was like, Kevin ain't here no more. That's all I heard. So that motivated me to another level. And that's when I ended up being my top senior. It was me and Kobe that year.
You become a consensus first team All-American. Obviously the injury, but put into the company of players like Mike Bibby, Jermaine O'Neal, Tim Thomas, Kobe, at that point in time, did you feel like not only getting to the NBA was inevitable, but also you were going to play a major role in the league, being ranked under Kobe?
See, I think back then with us guys, we was that next wave of stars. And sometimes, like I said, circumstances happen in life where you just don't know. I mean, we all had that vision. Once we realized the impact that we had on basketball around the country. But at the moment, like at that time, it's like, those guys to this day still have a lot of love, respect for. I still talk to with Tim, Bibby, Jermaine, Steven Jackson, Kobe gone, but I think, for me, it was the focus of like, if that was my only sole focus of playing the NBA and I had an accident, then it probably would have devastated me to the core. But because I just love playing basketball and it gave me a great joy to be able to just get back and play, it didn't devastate me like that. So that's why I was able to still focus and play, 17 seasons, is because that opportunity to keep doing something I always loved to do, regardless if it was the NBA or it was overseas or wherever.
So, in terms of your recovery process from the incident, how did that play out? And did you think at any point that you'd never be able to play basketball again?
Well, the scariest thing was the first few years, and then you didn't know, because it was really dealing with an injury with a plate in your neck, to not knowing what's going to happen if you get hit in that area. And a lot of doctors pulled away at the pre-draft because people didn't know it was an unknown injury at the time. So it was just a mental hurdle over and over and over, at least for 3 to 4 years after that, to just get back to a good solid level of basketball. I never got back to that elite level I was, but I got back to a good level.
And you obviously initially intended, you had the intention on planning on going to DePaul. Things didn't work out there. You never attended that school, obviously, but at that point, what was your thought process like? How did you manage to figure out your next steps through your career in terms of getting, obviously, to the professional ranks?
Well, I had a lot of options because of the name and equity I built up. The thing was coming back healthier and stronger. And it was like a lot of other things, good and bad. But at the time, the reason I didn't really look at a lot of that because my health and being able to just play again was more important. Didn't worry about if I didn't get into Paul or if I didn't play in the NBA. It was like, man, I'm going to be healthy enough to play because there was other opportunities to play everywhere because I was still a household name.
Yeah.
And I was young.
I think you take your health for granted a lot of the time. You know, when something does happen, like I've torn my ACL meniscus, obviously not to the level of a neck injury like what you sustained, but when you go a number of years without not being able to do something you love or being able to be physically active because that's something that you were accustomed to for so many years, it's definitely something. It's a tough battle for sure, and you know, it's a credit and a testament to you to be able to get back and 16 years professionally to be able to do what you love and still do it at a pretty good level. So,
and back then it was important because it was some stars like Randy Livingston that went down with both knees, who would have been a hell of an NBA star that played at LSU, and he blew both his knees out. But the sports advance was not like that back then. The things that they can do now.
Yeah, you look at Jamal Murray coming back from an ACL and playing a big part, and even, you know, a guy like Sean Livingston.
Exactly. If that was like 20 years ago, it wouldn't happen. They would have deemed them finished.
Yeah.
So the sports medicine that came a long way, the way these guys can get back on the court and the way they nurture them and give them opportunity, that helps.
Yeah. As well as, like, do you reckon from a conditioning standpoint and just like as training standpoint, things like just being in the weight room and like the actual facilities themselves, there's a lot more focus into training, not so much like powerlifting or like heavy weights, but more things like plyometrics, like those types of things developed over the years.
Injury prevention.
Yeah, injury prevention.
Yeah, plyometrics has been big. With a lot of the kids, but see, this is the thing. A lot of kids train off of that type of stuff nowadays, but also you see more injuries in the NBA that you ever seen in the history over the past 7 to 8 years. You see more stars sitting out with injuries, more players getting injured than back then. And that's what I understand. You got better science, better dietitians, all of that. And these guys still get injured. Back then, we eat all kinds of stuff and go play like 78 games.
Yeah. Nah, crazy. Especially when you look at guys like Dennis Rodman and just what he was doing like night before games. He just rocks up the next night and plays almost like
and then go play a whole game defending the best players out there.
Exactly. Man. Different times.
It definitely is.
You're right.
So obviously you had a successful career. You played in Greece, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Turkey, the Philippines, and you also spent a lot of your time here in the league doesn't exist anymore, the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association. Tell us, I guess, a bit about your favorite part of your career and what were your most memorable moments. And for guys or for folks at home that might not know much about the CBA, what was it like playing in that league? Because there was some really good players that did come out of that league and
well, the CBA was, you got to think, people don't realize George Carr, Phil Jackson, Keith Smart, Eric Musselman, a ton of Jalen Brunson dad, Rick Brunson. That's a lot of Adrian Griffin, who was a defensive guy for the Toronto. So many players that it came through there and coaches. At the time, at that level, it was still some of the best players in the world playing there. Just being able to be in Rockford, close to home, that organization and damn near every category that's there, rebounding. But I got every category. And then I was the only player in CBA history to lead it back to back in scoring and steals. You know, so I had like I said, and that was at maybe like a 75%, Ronnie, compared to what it was like when I was at 100%.
So what could you have done if you were at 100? It would have been a completely different story. You wouldn't have been in the CBA. You would have been obviously.
No, I would have been in the
playing
CBA. I've been probably in the NBA doing a lot of damage. Because I tell guys, the thing about when you watch the league back then, I was already a physical player. I come from Chicago. So that suited me playing back then. And if I was playing now, please. If you got guys like James Harden and Russell Westbrook getting 28, 30, come on now.
Who
And
do you
those hell
see?
of a players, don't get me wrong. But Kobe, our era, if we came up more in a physical time of basketball. It was just different.
Who do you see yourself like in today's game when you watch like similarities? Obviously, guys like Westbrook and D Rose in his prime, players like that, athletically gifted point guards. But even just some young players coming in the league now, who do you see like similarities to yourself?
Man, a D Wade, a Derrick Rose, a Westbrook.
John Wall.
Who?
John Wall.
Who?
That's what he said.
Oh, John Wall. Yes, change pace and air. He got a couple things he got to be careful with though. Is he could sometimes he want to go airborne in the wrong moments. But yeah, those guys similar athletic, built.
But you were built differently.
Well, I was much stronger than those guys.
Yeah.
But I think when I watch them, it is amazing watching some of the things that Westbrook and done. But Westbrook wasn't a hang time type player. It was either full force, full speed, and go. Derrick Rose had more of finishing at different trajectories in the air, but he wasn't really a floater. He was more of a high jumper with vertical moves in the air. John Morant is a little bit of me,
Not
with
strong
being
guy.
able to float, change hands in certain situations in the game. So it's a little bit of mixture of those players, and even with D Wade, same way.
Tell us about D Wade. Obviously, him growing up in Chicago. Would you consider him as one of the greatest Chicago basketball players to come out of that city?
Oh, for what he achieved in the NBA and at Marquette, yeah. Yeah, like, when nobody, like, he could always play, but a lot of people didn't, really watch Richards High School where he played. And, he always had the talent. And then you see what he did at Marquette. And that was, like the coming out party when people like, no, he could play, period. And he's one of, and this is the thing. Because he was like, not like talked about as one of the dominant high school players, but he one of the best players to ever come out of Chicago because he improving it.
So do you live with any regrets, or do you have any moments where you reflect on your career and say what you could have been, or do you kind of not really dwell on the past and you look at like life as if everything's kind of happened for a reason, and because of those things you still had a 16-year great professional career, and obviously with your elite youth basketball camp, things of that nature, you can kind of pass down your wisdom to the next generation, and like everything kind of happens for a reason type thing.
Yeah, for me, I never. That's one of the things for me is like every step of the way with the basketball, with the name and the building of like never letting the game use you and learning how to use it once you done and show people. So it was me playing to get an opportunity to play. And then as it went on and I never gave up, I was looking at like, this is the path I'm supposed to take. because it didn't take me away from something I was blessed with, either coaching it, teaching it, or playing it, and even developing it. And this mindset for me of doing it for so long will put me to the test, because this year I coached and did a lot of travel over 13 years in development. But now the test comes for me this year because I took over Hope Chicago basketball team to now coach in high school, where everything started for me, basically. So to see if all the knowledge and coaching and things that I gained and experienced, that it can translate over to helping these kids achieve their goal, and my knowledge to hopefully put them in the best situation.
Yeah, you're doing some great work in the community. You're doing a bit of motivational speaking. Is that correct as well?
Yeah, I do some more. Matter of fact, Monday I got to go speak at a basketball camp in Rockford.
Okay.
I do a lot more. You'll see coming up for the next couple of years. Show guys what they can do once they're done playing, what to look forward to, regardless if it's basketball, to let them know life is bigger than just basketball. It's things after the ball stop bouncing. It's still reality of life.
So would you say I guess the life lessons that you obviously took away, that's sort of something that you always wanted to do once your career ended in basketball, and you wanted to give back to the youth, or did it sort of just fall into your lap and just sort of something, just that opportunity sort of came about?
I think it was a combination of both, because you have to be able to gain knowledge and stay around this long to realize it was your path to be able to teach it and give it back. If not, and you got sidetracked away from the game and to something else, I wouldn't have been able to be in this situation to do what I'm doing today.
And are there any prospects in Chicago at the moment who we or the NBA fan, like world alike, should kind of have their eye on for the future in the next coming years that you really just rate?
I find out now more coaching close up against some of these next future generation players starting this season, to see what's next. Right now in the States, it's weird. It's different. Every city get their chance to have dominance. And right now it's Texas. Before New York, Chicago, Philly, LA. But right now Texas is cranking out players like no other.
Yeah, they do have actually, surprisingly, for such a football state, and for a state that's so big on Friday Night Lights and all that sort of stuff, their basketball programs through the roof. Like what they've produced recently, in Julius Randle and that.
Oh no, right now I got to give it to Texas. Right now, Texas.
Yeah, but just the South in general is popping off. Georgia, Florida.
Yeah. So that's Texas, where they all coming from right now. It's like this. It's like every couple of years somebody had a turn. Cities had a turn. So we'll see. Chicago will always be in the mix. We'll crank out a few of them here and there. So I'm interested to see a lot of these kids this year.
So who do you think, out of the guys that you've seen up close in Chicago, any personal players that you think could definitely reach the NBA, or like highly touted guys?
Right now we don't have. See, we got a lot of small guards. Normally we don't, and that's the thing. We don't really. I don't really know yet. I mean, normally we have some 6'4", 6'6", 6'7", but right now it's hard to tell with some of these players, because we get late bloomers more so now than we did before, when we could put our finger on it and say, okay, that guy gonna be special. So we don't really know yet. That's why I'm interested to see, as the season start, who come out of nowhere.
I guess, yeah, a question regarding Chicago players. You've seen Jalen Brunson and what he obviously achieved, him being from Illinois, not obviously directly in the Chicago area, but obviously playing ball there and being a Mr. Illinois basketball as well, like yourself. Talk us through like how you sort of did you sort of see that kind of progression and development in Jalen Brunson's career, or did you think he was capable of being the player that he is today? Seeing that he obviously had all those accolades in college, in high school, or was it sort of out of the blue for you?
I know his dad. I've been knowing his dad since the CBA days. Jalen knows all the history and tradition of Chicago basketball, period. Smart. So what he was doing, it don't surprise me. The kid is he's the shoe. That dude's basketball knowledge and understanding of players and everything. He knows this.
So cool.
He knows it. Like, that's why people, and he's a floor general, and it's the thing, you can't never speed him up. He play at his pace.
Mm.
And he very smart. He wins. I remember when the first time his dad introduced me, and he like, oh yeah, I know everything. He read my stats. He knew everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he knew everything. That's why I said, yeah, and that's what he was. Watching him and just single-handedly playing, because he played against a lot of good teams as well here, a lot of good organizations in the CBA. I mean, not CBA, but in the in AAU and travel ball, he played with a good organization.
So yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot here just to finish this off. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So we thought with any guest that comes on the show, seeing as though you're from the city of Chicago, we're going to let you list your all-time starting five for the entire city of Chicago. From, I guess, doesn't have to be based off accolades. It can be if you like, but it can be pretty much of who you think the best five players in the city of Chicago are of all time.
Oh my
Point guard
goodness.
through the center. I knew you were going to do that. I had a feeling.
Oh man. I mean, for me, you see, when you going with, of course, I mean, I'm going to go, man, that's hard. That is very hard. I got to go with, like, we had Antoine Walker. He'd be like my stretch four.
I like it.
You got, I'm going to put, man, D Wade at my two. I'm going to put, shoot, I'm going to go. We had a lot of guards. Isaiah.
You're going to snub someone, yeah. Isaiah, I was going to say Zeke. You can't go wrong with Zeke.
You can't not put him in.
Oh, man, that's from here. Shoot, man, we got, you got Mark McGuire, you got Terry Cummings, you got D Rose.
Mo Cheeks.
AD.
Mo Cheeks. I mean, shoot. Yeah, Kendall Gill, you had, that's hard five, but if I had to like just go with, I'm gonna go with like Isaiah, Tim, D Wade, D Rose, Twan Walker, and I'm putting Tim Hardaway in there.
So Anthony Davis doesn't get the go.
Oh shit! And look, see, that's the thing.
It was a tough question.
So yeah, I had to have some. So I'll put AD in there. But see, this is the thing. If I go by the NBA, that's one thing. If I go by what they did in high school,
oh yeah,
yeah,
then those guys gonna be in front of Anthony Davis. Because in high school, Anthony Davis wasn't dominant like those guys.
Yeah, he only had 1 year in his senior year where he really like
blossomed.
Exactly,
and
like
Yeah.
Isaiah
He was
D.
like
Rose.
20,
Yeah. See, them other guys that had some dominant, but if you from the NBA, of course, you know, once he's healthy, and it's more players. It's a lot of players.
Ben
Jabari,
Wilson, God rest his soul. He
And
was
look, and see, Ben probably the best than all of us.
wow.
So, you know, everybody only knows what he would have done. You know, because he was one of the first players as a junior, #1 in the country, and even the senior class.
Jeez.
damn.
So he was different.
Who would you compare him to? Because I made a comparison. I said the way when I saw a few of his highlights, I thought he said he looked a bit like a George Gervin, Iceman.
The way he played a little bit.
He was a little bit like George Gervin. Yeah, that was the right comparison. That was the
Similar
right
body
comparison.
frame as well.
Scored the same way.
Wasn't hyper athletic, but he had those finger rolls. He could get to the rim. He's got those little the shift, the way he shifted his body.
Yeah, that's what I said. He was like George Gervin.
But yeah, the Chicago's produced so many good players. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot there, Ronnie.
We got so many great players. That's why we always never say who's the best. We lead that argument, but I never say I'm the best player because I'm like Jordan. I never got a chance to play against those guys. You know, so that's the only way you can look at it. You know, Jordan, same thing. He didn't get a chance to play against Jerry West and all those guys back then.
And I think it's very subjective as well, because I had this argument, like I put up a video of Pete Maravich when he was doing those crazy dribbling drills, and all these, young kids like saying, Pete Maravich wouldn't have been able to, hold anything to what Kyrie Irving does or this and that. But I'm like, you know what? You look at it from this generation. You got so much given to you in terms of sports science, equipment, training, everything they know that they didn't know back then, they now know. If you guys had brought Steph Curry or somebody into that generation, how do we know he would have been the same player? It's the same thing if you bring Pete Maravich into today's generation.
When you got physical contact and guys was athletic and stronger, so this sums up everything. So you're in a part of the world and played physical, and their style has never changed. They never changed their rules, right? So this is what I always tell people. I say when the Dream Team played over there at the time, and I played in Europe, they don't call those fouls. They let you get hit coming off screen. They let you get bumped. They let you get this. Like Luka said, it's easy to score here, right? But when I tell people, just look at when Jordan played over there, because Jordan they was used to the physical era here. So that's why they were so dominant. But then as you start watching, as the game changed here, these guys was not ready for the physicality over there. And then they got upset. And then in the world started getting closer and closer because these guys was not used, because we changed our rules of physicality here. But Europe always stayed the same. That's why people say Europe catching up. I say Europe has played physical forever. The United States, these guys haven't been hit or been in physical games like that. So when they come off a screen and you get bumped or got pushed, the referee's not calling that in FIBA. It's going to take these other guys that's on the new Olympic team to get used to the style, the physicality of everything, because their style haven't changed.
It'll be real interesting to see like this FIBA World Cup, how Team US handles like teams like Serbia, even like here in Australia. I feel like we got quite a strong team, so it'll be real interesting to see how these like the US team,
And that's
because
the
it's
thing
not the
for
best
us.
of the best.
It depends on who even going to play for these guys over here. They don't
Yeah,
even
it's like
honor it.
Brunson. Yeah, it's like Ingram, Brunson,
Bridges.
Mikel.
Well, a few guys have put their names out, and
Yeah.
obviously the put their intention out that they want to play for Team USA. But it's not like it
Yeah.
used to be. Like
Jimmy
that,
Butler's playing,
Yeah.
Drew Holiday's playing, but
That's not enough.
yeah, it's not the full.
Not
It's
enough
not what it
the
was
way
in
the
2012.
other teams in the world is stacked up, and it's not. That's not enough. They're gonna have to get Durant out there, AD. They're gonna have to get some more guys out there to to play.
Booker.
Yeah, D Booker to play.
The Devin Booker, probably Drew
James
Holiday.
Yeah, Drew's playing.
They're gonna have to get some, and they're fine. They do a good job. It's a lot of damn players, but they want to go with versatile wings that can defend all positions. They want to go with the Butlers, the Durants, the Bookers, guys like that can score and defend, shoot, dribble, score from anywhere. They want them type of players. That's why Bam Adebayo is going to be big.
Yeah, Bam will play.
I still think no matter what.
Jason Tatum, it's another good one. Yeah, I was just gonna say, with like the way back then you could probably throw a team like that together of the like, and you probably get away with winning the gold. But nowadays, like all the teams, they take pride in playing for their national team, like Serbia, Slovenia, all these nations that are Germany, like Spain. They just love playing for their country. They got this pride. Whereas I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, like back then it used to be that people took more pride in putting on that USA jersey. Nowadays, even with the dunk contest, people not wanting to participate in that, and just the whole.
This is the thing with these guys. What in the advertisement on whether these guys going to do it or not in their brand. That's the problem.